Well, hello, I am Robin May, life coach and licensed therapist. And if this is your first time over here on my YouTube, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. Will you hit subscribe so that we can stay connected with one another on the journey? Now, if you are back and you've been rocking with me before, hey girl, you know I'm happy that you are here. Listen, we are wrapping up a 3-part series that I am calling Heal Well. Now, I have to tell you that I am committed to creating safe spaces for purposeful and driven women. But often those purposeful and driven women are overworked and overwhelmed. And so I am committed to helping dope women just like you curate the life they long for, helping them understand what it means to pause and pay attention long enough to create a life that really matters. Listen, if you have not watched parts 1 and part 2 of this 3-part series, please go back and watch those first. You know, the scripture says line upon line, precept upon precept. Each of these videos build upon one another. So I want to make sure that you've watched the first 2 before you watch this one. If you've been rocking with me for a while, you know I got to look down at my notes. We keep it real around here. I can't remember all this stuff off the top of my head without rambling. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. Y'all know I'm a ramble anyway, okay? Y'all know I'm a ramble anyway, but I'm going to keep the rambling in the minimum if I have some notes in front of me. And so if you are watching this, that means I've already posted the previous 2. And so again, you can go back and check those out. But as a recap, I am doing this series after me experiencing a recent loss of my virtual assistant, Dee. She was an angel here on earth. It made me begin to reflect on all of the loss I had in 2021 and just the loss period in life. And I know many of you have had lost as well. I keep saying lost. Can we go ahead and say lost? Because see, some of y'all heard me say lost and you're like, girl, loss, okay? I know it's LOSS. So many of us have experienced significant loss, and we're not just talking about the death of a loved one. It can be the end of a marriage. It could be a health change in your life. It could be an abrupt end to a job, girl, even a friendship ending. We're talking about any significant loss. Now, while I am a licensed therapist and a life coach, more than likely, I am not your therapist or your life coach. So make sure you take these strategies and tips and you share it with the person who is partnering with you more intimately to make sure that these are applicable for you. Part 3 today, I'm talking about some pointers for your path. Pointers for your path as you're going on the journey toward healing. Remember, we can heal, but I want us not just to heal, I want us to heal well. And so these are some pointers for your path as you're going on the journey. Like I want you to look at them as kind of like some the little stones. What do you call those? They're not called stones. This is where I get distracted. They're not called stones. What are those things that people have in their yard? Oh, I'm having a brain freeze. It shouldn't even matter. And at this point, I should keep going. But somebody just tell me in the comments, what are they called? Just rocks, okay? Pointers for the path. I am talking to you from a personal and professional experience. And remember, this is not right or wrong. I'm going to say this again. Your journey is not about it being right or wrong. This is your journey. But I want you to understand that I know what it can happen if you are not being intentional about your healing journey. There are consequences. There are consequences to not being intentional on your journey. And so I want to help you with that. All right. So let's dive in. Y'all ready? So these are some pointers or tips for your path. So let's just call them tips, okay? Here's tip number 1. I want you to remember this. Remember I said this. This is heavy enough. Don't add all of that. This is heavy enough. Don't add all of that. I got a visual for y'all. This is what I do with my clients. They be so sick of me because I'm going to do a visual. So this, what you're dealing with, whatever the situation is, whether it was the loss of a loved one, whether it was your job ending abruptly, whether it was your spouse asking for a divorce, you finding out your spouse was unfaithful, whether it was a health scare, whether it was the end of a friendship. Y'all, this by itself is heavy enough. What begins to happen though, we have this and then we be adding, y'all get that? We be adding all this extra stuff. And we add all this extra stuff to this situation that's heavy enough. What's this extra stuff? We begin to say things like, I'll never have a significant relationship again. I'll never find a good job. I'll never be able to be at peace. I'll never be happy again. Y'all, this is heavy enough. Grieving what you lost is heavy enough. But when you begin to catastrophize and predict negativity, you're adding more to the pain. This is heavy enough. We don't have to add all of this. And let me tell you, I talked about this in part 2. It is very normal for those emotions and thoughts to begin to show up, but you get to decide what you do with them when they do. You don't have to meditate on that thought. You don't have to believe that thought. When it shows up, you can decide what to do with it. I want you to hear me in your head saying, girl, this is heavy enough. We don't have to add all of that. That was tip number 1. Tip number 2, I want you to remember this. Wherever you go, there you are. Wherever you go, there you are. There you are. Again, I'm sharing with you some strategies and tips to help you heal well. So number 1 is, remember, this is heavy enough. Don't add all of that. Number 2 is, wherever you go, there you are. So what begins to happen when we experience a significant loss, we want to get back to some sense of normalcy. It's just human. We want to get, like, let's get through this pain. Let me just push through. So what we begin to do is think about, I want to do something drastic. We might decide to just move. I'm just selling my house. I'm moving. We may decide just to quit our job. We may decide to get quickly into another relationship. We want to do something to numb the pain, to get away. Let's go on to something else. I want to get through that so quick. Let's just go on to something else. But wherever you go, there you are. So if you don't allow yourself to heal, girl, you taking all that stuff to this new relationship. You taking all that stuff to that job. You taking all that stuff to that new house. Like, you're doing all of that, and it's just uprooting and taking it over here. So one of the norms that we encourage people to consider, and we, being most mental health professionals, will encourage people to be careful about making any drastic change within the first 6 months. Sometimes some people say a year after a significant loss. Now, you got to keep that relative to what the loss was, but I want you to be careful of making any drastic change without having somebody that's walking with you on that journey, because wherever you go, there you are. Tip number 3, I want you to guard the operating room. Guard the operating room. Another way I could say it is, be careful with your backstage passes. Let me tell you what I mean. I talked about this a lot. I alluded to it in part 2. When you are on the path towards healing, if you want to heal well, you have to be very careful about who's in your ear. So when I talk about guarding the operating room, I want you to imagine you're on the operating table and you have the surgeons and the nurses in the room. The surgeons and the nurses have on masks. They have on the gowns. They have on the gowns. They have on all these gloves. Not just to protect themselves, but when you're on the operating table, you're vulnerable, you're wide open, and any little infection could be deadly. And so you got to be careful who is in the operating room with you. And I want you to have that mentality. When you are vulnerable, you have to be careful who you are listening to. Again, I said another way you can think about this is, be careful with your backstage passes. Who has access to the backstage of your life? Because that's where you're changing clothes, you're rushing, you're trying to get everything together before you go present yourself on the stage. You got to be careful who's back there with you. You have to really filter out the folks in your life. Somebody say, filter out the folks. This is not about you being funny acting. This is not about you thinking you're better than anybody. You just got to guard who is in your ear when you're on the path to healing. I think about this a lot for women of faith who are specifically trying to heal after a broken heart. Because you got to be careful who's hyping you up, who's telling you what you should do, what you shouldn't do. I wouldn't take. Girl, be careful, because how you respond in the moments of despair, you will pay that price well after the situation is over. So you got to be careful who's in your ear. Okay, tip number 4, I want you to document your routine. So, part of what's happening when you're on the path of healing, you need an anchor. You need an anchor, something that you can trust, that you can hold on to. So, one of the ways you can do that is to document your routine. Write down what your day to day looks like. Write down what you do for soul care. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Write down what you do for soul care. Write down what time you want to wake up in the morning. Write down what dinner you want to have. As much as you can document, I want you to document your routine. And you can even have somebody in your life that's holding you accountable to it. Because when you are in despair, when you're in overwhelm, when you are vulnerable, you need an anchor, something you can hold on to. And often that can be a day-to-day routine that you don't have to think about, that you can just follow. So 7 a.m., all right, it's time for me to have my quiet time. 8 a.m., let me get in the shower so I can get ready for work. 9 to 5, this is what I need to get done at work. 6 p.m., I'm going to start cooking dinner. 7:30, them chicks need to be in the bed. Now, I wish somebody over here had a bedtime at 7:30. Don't nobody over here have a bedtime at 7:30. Definitely not that 15-year-old. Definitely not that 13-year-old, but even that 8-year-old. But if you got kids that you can put in the bed by 7:30, document it. I want you to document your routine. Remember, these are strategies and tips to help you heal well. So number 1 is, remember our visual. This is heavy enough. Don't add all of that. Number 2, wherever you go, there you are. Number 3, guard the operating room. Number 4, document your routine. Number 5, I want you to use this concept that I use with my clients, and that is identify your balloons. Okay, let me tell you what I mean by that. I want you to picture an air balloon. You know what they call them? An air balloon. And you know, the air balloon is a big basket. I wish I could show y'all this basket right here. That would be a perfect visual, but I can't do all that. I want you, air balloon is a big basket and you're standing in the basket. And normally there's one big balloon that lifts up to take you on the view of the city, right? I want you to think about that, but I want you to have several balloons, not just one balloon. And I want you to envision that these balloons help you lift your mood. You with me? I want you to identify the balloons that help lift your mood. This is your soul care. What are the strategic and specific things that you do for self and soul care? Remember, self and soul care are 2 different things. They sometimes overlap, but they're 2 different things. Self-care is making sure you go to the doctor, you're brushing your teeth, you're taking a shower, baby, you're getting your hair done. That's you're getting your nails done. That's self-care. A lot of times we call that taking care of ourselves, and it is. But there's a deeper way to take care of ourselves, and that's soul care. What are you doing for your soul? That's meditating. That can be exercising. Exercising can be self and soul care. Exercising, it can be prayer. It can be intentional conversations with your therapist. So I want you to identify your self and soul care balloons and literally write them out. Draw the visual. If you want me to send you the visual I use with my clients, comment below. DM me. I will send you the visual. And literally, I want you to draw some balloons and identify what are the things that you use to lift your mood. Exercise, prayer. If you take medication, baby, medication. Talk to my therapist. Spend time with friends. What are the things that you intentionally use to lift your mood? I want you to identify your balloons. Tip number 6, I want you to determine free feel days. There go that Texas. I don't know if y'all can understand me. I want you to determine FREE, free, FEEL, feel days. Free feel days. Now, I want you to literally look at your calendar. Girl, this is what I do in real life. Look at your calendar. Figure out when you have some free time that you can just let yourself feel. You're not trying to keep it together. You're not trying to present well. This is the day that you can just feel. You can think about how hard it is. You can think about how much pain you're in. You can vent, you can cry, you can journal. It's just a free day to just feel. I want you to determine your free feel days. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't feel any other days, but girl, can we go ahead and keep it real? We got a lot going on. We're managing a lot. And a lot of times we don't allow ourselves to feel because it's like, girl, I got to get these kids up in a little bit. Or I got to get on here with my clients. They don't need me on here busted out crying. I don't have a lot of time. So I will identify the time because I'm going to let myself feel. So what is the day? You know what? Friday, I don't have nothing to do. I'm going to bake me some Pillsbury chocolate chip cookies. I'm going to get in this bed. I'm going to put my bonnet on, and I'm going to let myself feel. I want you to determine your free feel days. Tip number 7. Girl, this is so important. I want you to anticipate triggers. Anticipate triggers. What are the things that can trigger you? Again, depending on what the loss is. If you know that you lost someone that you love and their birthday is coming up, or your anniversary, or the date of them passing, I want you to identify that time ahead of time. Maybe it's Christmas, maybe it's Thanksgiving, maybe it's New Year's. I want you to anticipate triggers. Maybe it wasn't a significant loss for you. Maybe it was you're having a health scare and you know certain smells get you really sick. And so you got to be careful about that being in your home. I want you to anticipate what are something, you can't control all the triggers. Okay, I need to say that to somebody again. You can't control all the triggers. You can't anticipate all the triggers. But the ones you can, I want you to anticipate those triggers and identify what you can do, what can help you heal or respond is a better way to say that. Respond when you are triggered, okay? So anticipate triggers. Tip number 8. Tip number 8. I want you to be strong and cry. I want you to be strong and cry. And this is really connected to number 6, but I wanted to pull this one out specifically because what I hear all the time is people say, girl, be strong, don't cry. Or they'll say, she is so strong, she wasn't even crying. And I want you to understand this. Your tears don't negate your strength. You can be strong and cry. And you know what else? You don't even have to be strong. You can decide, oh no, I don't want to hold on to this strong Black woman. You can allow yourself to say, I am struggling. That in itself is strength. So you know what I really want you to do with tip number 8? I want you to redefine strength. Can we say that? Tip number 8 is I want you to redefine strength. That's what I want. All right, y'all, we're just about done. Here is tip number 9. You already know I was going to go here. I want you to seek support. Actually, what I want you to do is to create your board of advisors. I want you to identify people in your life who can be a part of your team, girl. I want you to have your pastor, your therapist, your best friend, your trainer, your nutritionist. I want you to identify your board, your team members. Who are the people who are going to be intimately included on your journey towards healing? I want you to identify them. But then I want you to take it a step further. I want you to give those people permission to push past your wall. Can I talk to all my driven and purposeful women? People want to respect your boundaries. So when your first response is, I'm good, I'm okay, a lot of times people are going to take you at your word. I want you to give these people permission to push past your boundaries. I want you to tell them, girl, now you know sometimes I'm tripping and I won't admit that I need help. Just push me a little bit. I want you to give them permission to have access to your life in a way that they may not have before. And you can even say, you know what, I'm really trying to get over whatever this situation is. You fill in the blank. And I really could use some more intentional support over the next 3 months. And so, girl, if you see me snapping, if you see me isolating, girl, I really need you to call me out on it. So I want you to seek support, identify your team, and ask your team to really jump in to help you on your journey towards healing. Not just healing, but healing well. And then here is number 10. Sis, I want you to allow yourself to be. That's our final tip. On your path toward healing, will you allow yourself to be? I want you to allow yourself to be. One of the things I have found with so many of the women I work with, and they know, I tell them this all the time. I often tell them, it's just because, I can be, you don't know. I'm going to tell you. In therapy, we don't play no games, baby. We in the lab. We doing some work. And one of the things I'll tell them is, it surprises me that for some reason you think the normal experiences of life don't apply to you. Like you don't want to be superwoman, but you are putting superwoman pressure on yourself. Because I'll hear them say things like, because I shouldn't still be upset about this, or I shouldn't have been so worried about that, or I shouldn't be dealing with this. And it's the normal occurrences of life. You lost somebody that you loved. So yeah, boo, you're still crying. Your boss has threatened to fire you and you've been the top performer. Yeah, you should be upset. Like, we're not allowing ourselves to be the normal occurrences of life. Somehow we convince ourselves that we should be above that. We shouldn't feel that. We shouldn't experience that. Not on my watch, sis. Not on my watch. I want you to give yourself permission to be. Listen, you are a bad chick, but you're still a human. And if you don't give yourself permission to be, who will? So on your path towards healing, if you want to heal well, I want you to give yourself permission to be. You don't have to be what they need. You don't have to be what they want. I want you to be what you need you to be. All right, sis, that's it. That's our 3-part series where I wanted to help you discover what it takes for you to heal well. In part 1, we talked about the sneaky ways grief can show up. In part 2, we talked about the common experiences we have on the path towards healing. And in part 3, I talked about some pointers for your path, some tips for your journey towards healing. Listen, if this 3-part series helped you, can you share it with some folks so that they can be helped as well? And then can you comment and DM me and let me know what your greatest takeaway was? It has been my honor to be on this journey with you. Stay tuned, because I am committed to helping dope women like you create and curate the life you long for. I'll talk to you soon.